Alison, how are you?
I'm excellent, thank you. How are you?
I'm excellent as well. Very happy to see you, actually. I was really looking forward to recording this interview just because I know you have a lot to say about the subject that we're going to be talking about. Anyone who follows you, and I know a lot of people know you, if not everybody in Ontario at least knows who Alison Craig is. You're very active on social media and you're very vocal about the issues that we're dealing with and struggling with as criminal defense lawyers. And that's why I wanted to chat with you today about an issue that is two issues that are kind of connected, and it's jail and bail.
Yeah,
And it's because we have a bail problem, we have a jail problem. So
correct.
I'll let you talk about what's going on with bail and jail, Alison.
Oh God, I don't even know where to start. I mean, the biggest problem,
Mm.
and I don't know if it's as bad in every jurisdiction, but certainly in the GTHA, everything now requires a special bail hearing. Like you talk to people in other provinces and they look at us like we have two heads because no bail takes more than 20 minutes. You fill out some paperwork, somebody signs off on it, and off you go. And here, every arrest I get now, I'm told it requires a special bail hearing. And so, I mean, and it turns out just yesterday, I did a special bail hearing, and one of the sureties was under cross-examination for 3 hours. Like, what are we doing?
It's like a
So
trial.
it's like it was like a trial. Exactly. They put this poor dude on trial. He's just there trying to help out a friend.
And who has just to clarify for people who are watching who are not in criminal law, who don't practice, the sureties have nothing to do with the case.
No, they're just there
Like,
promising the court they're going to
yeah,
supervise release conditions for a loved one. So, I mean, every case now requires a special bail hearing, which is problem number one. And for the rare cases that don't, in Toronto, we have our lovely new Toronto Regional Bail Center. And none of the courtrooms actually run bail hearings. They're basically just triage all day. And when you have a bail hearing that's ready to go, you sign up on the ready to go list and usually are waiting 3, 4, 5 days until you get a bail court for your hearing to be heard. Leaving aside how unfair that is to anybody who's arrested and is obviously going to get bail, uh, what defense lawyer has 3, 4, 5 clear days just to be sitting around twiddling their
yeah.
thumbs waiting for their bail hearing to be heard? It's just, it's absurd. And so, because of the overcrowding of our bail courts and the delays there, the overcrowding in the jails is getting worse and worse and worse.
And as a result, the conditions as well, like they're unable to provide reasonable conditions. We keep hearing about from clients about them being three in a cell. I've heard rumors of there being four. I don't know how true that is, but at least three in a cell
Yes.
is,
Most
yeah,
jails are 3 in a cell now,
yeah.
and I've heard the same rumors. I think 4 in a cell is coming. Um, I heard the other day about somebody that was sleeping in a broom closet at one of the jails. So yeah, the conditions are absolutely horrendous. They're three to a cell. They're locked down constantly. They never get out of their cells for days at a time. Often not even for a shower or a phone call. Um, a couple of the jails, certainly in the Greater Toronto area, Maplehurst in particular,
Hmm.
is the conditions are atrocious. For example, they have started rationing toilet paper. So for every three dudes in a cell, they get one roll of toilet paper to last them 3 days. And we're talking about a lot of large men here.
Yeah.
So often, what I've been hearing is that they're having to, hold their bodily functions for a day or two until they get refills of toilet paper. Like
Yeah.
how degrading and dehumanizing can you get? And that's just one example. I could talk for hours about Maplehurst, but. Yeah,
Yeah.
the conditions are atrocious.
Well, Maplehurst in particular was the center of the controversy not a long time ago. I did
Hmm.
interview recently Selwyn Peters about his case. He has a client there who was suffering from, who was actually involved in this whole scandal that
Yeah.
happened. So that was horrible. And it was shocking, to be honest, Alison. I mean, I don't know if you, in your experience, because you've been practicing for much longer, if you've ever seen anything like what we saw recently in Maplehurst, and if you can talk a bit more about that, because it is, I mean, we need to keep talking about this because it was shocking.
Exactly. It was shocking. And it was, I mean, I've got 11 or 12 clients who were affected by that. They were part
Hmm.
of it.
Yeah,
And sort of the Coles Notes version is there was on somewhere in Maplehurst, there was an assault on a guard. Somebody
yeah,
punched the guard in the face. And so they decided to use collective punishment on about 250 inmates, the entire unit.
yeah.
And so everybody got strip searched, pulled zip tied, pulled out of their cells in their boxers, lined up in a hallway, and this is all by like large police officer, well, correctional officers in riot gear, and they're sitting facing a wall in the hallway for in some cases a couple of hours in their boxers in December, freezing cold with large, I mean, they look like AK-47s. I think they shoot like rubber bullets or whatever, but large, scary guns with lasers on them pointed at their heads. And they're being told, don't look, don't move your head, don't speak, or we're going to shoot you. Um, they get back to their cells. Some of them, I had one client that was having an asthma attack during all of this and actually went unconscious. And the guards just said, shut up, stop complaining. Um, there's
Shut up, stop
videos.
complaining instead of getting them assistance.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're on.
High-fiving each other during all of
Yeah.
this. Um, it's just awful. And then anyway, they get back to their cells. All of their belongings are gone. They've been stripped. All their bedding, their clothes, their everything is gone. And um, they had, I don't quite know how it works, but they somehow have air vents that pump in air from the outside. And so for days they were pumping cold air into these units in December. These people had nothing but their boxers in some cases for a day or
Yeah.
two. So, I mean, it was just atrocious. And so, yeah, it has turned into a controversy. And there's a big case right now that, I mean, all of us that have clients that were affected by this are bringing stay applications. But there's one case in Milton going on right now that we've all sort of agreed to wait for the result and apply it to
Yeah.
our cases. So, um, that's I've never seen anything quite that bad, but Maplehurst is notorious for um, mistreatment and dehumanization of the people that are there.
And it was actually the fact that we saw some of these videos online was really very shocking because I know,
Yeah,
like, just talking about this is horrible, but then there is actually seeing how horrible it is even makes it worse. And it is true. I mean, one of the things that I did ask Mr. Peters is that when you get that call from your client complaining about that, do you actually believe it? Because it just sounds so wild. So, as a lawyer, sometimes we think that clients are exaggerating, they're making things up because they want to grab our attention on the phone. But how do
yeah,
you believe such a bizarre and wild story? Like,
exactly. I had that. I had the exact same reaction the first time someone called and told me about this incident. I thought, oh, okay, I'm missing something here. You're leaving some important details out, but absolutely not. That's exactly what happened. And there's another issue that I'm dealing with now at the Toronto South, where the new thing seems to be to take inmates down to the scanner in the admission and discharge unit, falsely accuse them of had the scanner having showed something secreted, and then they're taken to a cell in the admission and discharge unit where it's like a wall of windows, like clear for everybody to see, um, and stripped down, told to sit on the toilet. And then there's usually 4 or 5 guards standing there staring at them while they're sitting naked on the toilet, being told, ordered to have a bowel movement. And this has happened over and over and over again. And so I'm bringing stay applications in all of these cases, but it's seems to be the new thing is to, collectively dehumanize the people in there for absolutely no reason.
So, how is this happening? How is that even happening? And how is this being allowed? And why isn't anything happening to stop this?
There's no oversight. I mean, for if, Google, or not Google, but if you go on Canly and sort of search judgments, years and years and years, they've been called out by the courts for mistreatment of inmates, and absolutely nothing changes. So, there's no repercussions ever.
Yeah.
If you mistreat somebody, you're more likely to get a promotion than to get discipline of any sort. Even with the ICID incident, the collective punishment at Maplehurst, to my knowledge, nobody has lost their job. Um, I think the sergeant or the superintendent was moved to a new position, a cushy desk job out of Maplehurst. What kind of punishment is that, right? The
Hmm.
message is you can do whatever you want, and if we have to, exact some kind of discipline for public perception's sake, we're just going to give you a cushy job that pays you better. I mean, it's so there's absolutely no repercussions.
And do you
So
think
why would they change?
And do you think that the reason why there are no repercussions is because the general public doesn't seem to prioritize the issue of jails? Or is it something else? Because it just feels like when defense lawyers, we talk about how horrible this is, it doesn't seem to really get the public attention as much as other things. Like, let's say, when a victim in a sex assault case is like the accused is acquitted, then that's news
Exactly.
grabbing.
Yeah. I mean, because I am vocal about a lot of these issues to the extent that I can be on Twitter. My mentions turn into a hot mess from the public. Yeah, they don't get sympathy, right? And it's so politically, because these are government agencies. You don't get votes by saying we're going to treat the inmates better, right? You get
Yeah.
votes by saying we're going to lock everybody up and build more jails and blah 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 blah. So it's not a politically favorable topic for anybody to stand up and advocate for change. So nothing is going to change, I don't think.
Unless
The
the
the only thing and this is
yeah.
what I've started. Yeah, sorry. This is what I've started saying that we as defense lawyers need to do is bringing stay application after stay application after stay application. Like the reduction in sentences isn't making anything change. But I think if the public suddenly starts seeing, serious charges being thrown out as a result of the conditions in our jails, maybe that will finally result in some change.
And how successful are these stay applications? Are there what are the chances of success? Because getting a stay
To
is
be
very difficult.
determined.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, exactly. To be determined, but because I haven't actually, I've started filing them. I haven't really argued one yet. But I don't know. I'm probably reading too much into, body language and stuff of judges. But I've said to judges, I'm going to start doing this because I'm so fed up, and I've gotten some, nods and approving looking reaction. So I don't know. Obviously, it's going to depend on the judge. Some are going to be much more sympathetic than others, but I think there's a very powerful argument to be made. When you file, 50, 60, 100, 200 cases where, sentences have been reduced and it's getting worse, not better, what else is there to do other
Yeah.
than a stay? So I think we're at the point where it's not an unreasonable thing to be advocating for.
Yeah. And actually, it's something that maybe should be encouraged. And this is our duty as defense lawyers. I mean, what else can we
Yeah.
do for our clients than to at least get a stay in these situations where they're being treated very poorly? And this is in addition to other things that may sound minor, maybe, but they're not. There are some institutions like Maplehurst, for example, that don't offer video talks with their lawyers. So for
Yeah,
someone who's out, like I have a client right now in Maplehurst. Maplehurst is very far from me. I can't just go to Maplehurst. So the best way for me to communicate is as an alternative is by video, but that's
right.
not even an option. And Maplehurst is not the only detention center or jail or prison that has that problem. Uh, 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 Central North, I think, also has
Central
that
North. Yeah,
problem. So there are quite a few jails who don't even allow clients to meet by video with their lawyers. And
exactly. And on top of that, at both Maplehurst and Central North, the alternative is this access defense
yeah,
program. I have had one, two, three, 12 calls booked so far today. Not a single client has been brought. I spent my whole morning
to the
listening to
phone.
silence on
That's
the
just the
phone.
phone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's just the phone. And they don't even permit them to come to those when we book them. I'd say maybe on average, one out of every eight calls I book at Maplehurst or CNCC is successful most of the time. Like I'm convinced at Maplehurst, there's a fax machine and a garbage underneath it, and the call bookings come out the fax machine into the garbage, and that's as far as it goes. I'm convinced.
But it's really sad and it's frustrating from a defense perspective because if the only way you can really communicate on a regular basis with your client is access defense, imagine how can you prepare your client for a trial through access defense?
Exactly. It's impossible. It's
It,
impossible.
and it's really frustrating. It's difficult for us to do our jobs properly. It's difficult and frustrating for our clients. And again, like this is something like I've been trying to find a way to like at least have video everywhere in the jails, but it doesn't seem like anything is going to happen on that front.
Definitely not. And they're so, I mean, they've even started in most jurisdictions. Toronto's not quite so bad yet, but because the jails refuse to modernize and build more video suites, etc., they're not even allowing, video bails anymore, video pleas anymore.
Mhm.
Around here, every jurisdiction but Toronto, and Toronto's moving there. All of that has been canceled. Everything's back to in person because the jails refuse to accommodate, video appearances. So they have no interest in making any like God forbid we modernize anything in this system.
But how does that make sense though, Alison? Because we have lockdowns. We keep hearing that there are always lockdowns in the jails because they don't have enough staff. That's part of the problem why they have lockdowns. But when they bring them in person, doesn't that require more staff? I mean, I would think that video is easier because you don't really need too many people for.
Exactly.
So how does that make sense?
It doesn't. It
I
doesn't.
mean,
It makes absolutely no sense. And you're right. I mean, I have a guy at Maplehurst who was supposed to, he got into a fight and is now, he's got like a detached retina and a bunch of other eye damage. And he's blind in that eye until he gets surgery to fix it. And twice now they've had surgery booked and it's been canceled because they're short-staffed and don't have anybody to take him to the stupid hospital.
mhm.
I mean, so yeah, it's hugely resource intensive to be bringing people back and forth in person. They're never on time. It
Yeah,
wastes court
yeah,
time out the wazoo. So yeah, why not use some video? Install a couple
exactly.
suites. It can't be that hard. Buy a laptop.
Buy a laptop and they for sure already have internet connection there, so
Yeah,
they don't need to add that. And whatever staff they need for that, I would assume wouldn't be as much as what they would require for in-person
exactly.
services.
Yeah,
So, I mean, that's the problem here. But going back to bail now, like we're seeing, unfortunately, that the laws on bail are getting tougher, at least in some areas, like domestic violence again, when
yeah.
everybody who practices in criminal law knows that domestic violence cases, unfortunately, are some of the more common cases. And
Mm.
yet now it's going to be, we have more challenges there. Like, what is going on here as well?
Uh, uh, and not only that, they seem to intentionally put the most unreasonable crowns in the bail vetting
I
jobs.
agree. I
So
agree.
uh, I don't know if they do it intentionally or not, but and that's part of the problem at the Toronto Regional Bail Center is like a simple assault. A guy with no record, maybe through a phone as well. The Crown is seeking their detention or wants to hear from the sureties. And this poor dude, who's never going to face a day in jail, even if he's convicted,
Yeah.
has to wait 3, 4, 5 days in order for his bail to be reached. So there needs to be a lot more effort put into taking reasonable positions on bail. Um, and so whenever I hear jail, bail, not jail, and nobody is held for bail, everybody gets out on their own recog, I steam starts coming out of my
Yeah.
ears. If these people would just spend 1 hour watching what goes on at the regional bail center, I think they'd all shut up.
Well, and the other problem that we have, I don't know how bad it is in Toronto or the GTA. I know for Ottawa or the East region, there's still this insistence as well on having a surety, where in Zora, the Supreme Court made it clear you don't need a surety for every case. You
Yeah.
can release people on their undertaking and with some other conditions without there being a surety, but this still seems to be a problem.
Oh yeah.
Uh, for bail.
Yeah. And sureties often I mean, I can't remember the last time I ran a bail hearing with just one surety.
Yeah,
These days,
true.
2, 3 sureties, ankle monitoring, the whole thing. Like,
Yeah.
what happened to the ladder? We've jumped right to the top.
And you have to cross-examine them just like you had to do yesterday. And it's almost like a trial and it's just taking more and more time. So, I mean, but how did we even get there?
I mean,
Because it is a mess.
it is a hot mess. I think when I really started noticing it get bad was when Doug Ford, gosh, maybe 5 years ago or something, started, at least in the GTHA, imposing the gun bail teams. So he created an office in every jurisdiction of Crowns whose one and only job is to try and get anybody charged with a gun detained. That's when this whole special bail hearing thing started to get really out of control, from as far as I could tell. And it started this trend of now every there I can't even count how many special bail teams there are now. I've lost track. There's a special bail team for everything now, in Toronto. But it became that, the typical scenario, four guys in a car, gets pulled over, searched for whatever fabricated reason the police came up with. The dude in the front passenger seat has a firearm in his waistband. The other three in the car probably knew nothing about it. It's clear from the get go that the rest of the guys in the car are not going to ever be convicted of anything. Yet, because it's a firearm charge, all four of the guys now have to set special bail hearings,
Yeah.
spend 2 weeks in custody, waiting for their special bail hearing, when it's clear to anybody that looks at it that they are going to be acquitted, other than the dude that had it in his
Yeah.
waistband. And that just started, as far as I could tell, like the snowball effect. And that's how it's now become with any serious charge, like anything. I'm not even going to bother trying to list them, but everything now requires a special bail. Pretty soon, stealing something from the LCBO is going to require a special bail.
Yeah. And I mean, there's also, like you mentioned, that there are unreasonable screening positions at the bail level, that Crowns can easily consent to the release of many of these individuals. There are conditions that do address
Yeah.
any concerns that there may be. And yet we don't. And the Supreme Court, in fairness, in Zora was a very good decision
Yeah.
on that. And it doesn't seem like anything is working. So, I mean, I don't like to lose hope and I like to be optimistic, but what can be done at this point?
I wonder, I've also started considering filing stay applications for the delays in the bail hearings. I've
Hmm.
just very recently started putting on the record, we've been waiting here for 5 days for this bail to be reached. Um, and I'm going to be bringing a stay application at this fellow's trial. I've put that on the record a few times recently, and I'm going to start doing it, because you have a right to a reasonable bail in a reasonable
Yeah,
time. And sitting for 5 days when you're charged with a simple assault and throwing a cell phone, can hardly be said to be reasonable.
yeah, I agree. I mean, it's going to be tough. because for some people, bail is way too early to consider a stay. But I do agree because I mean, the concept of bail is that bail should happen immediately within 24
Right.
hours, 48
Exactly.
hours max.
Yeah,
And here, when it's 5 days, we're way past that
exactly.
time. So, I mean, in terms of as well, um, so this is one option, but what would you encourage other lawyers, especially I find the difficulty also with bail is that it's usually something that many junior lawyers or recent calls do a lot of bail. Some of the senior lawyers
Yeah.
don't do bail. And in fairness, for many of the younger lawyers, they're sometimes they don't have the confidence to either
Right.
bring a stay application or to
Yeah.
just go and aggressively negotiate with the Crown and make them see how unreasonable their position is. So
Yeah.
for those lawyers, though, Alison, because many of them are going to be doing the bulk of the bail work, what can we do to encourage them to actually be bold and not be afraid? Because bail is very important. A client who's detained at bail may not have the patience to want to wait until their trial, even if they have a good defense, just
Yeah.
because the conditions are so bad that they end up instructing their lawyers they want to resolve, they want to plead guilty, which is totally unfair for our clients. So,
Yeah.
what can we say to the new lawyers who may be a little bit shy, afraid, not confident enough um, to do something at the bail stage?
Call a mentor because you know you're raging inside. I
Yeah.
know you are, and you just don't have the confidence to say it out loud. Um, Call a mentor. I will give you the pep talk you need to lose your mind on the record for a few short seconds.
Yeah.
Because papering the record really is important. So, whether it doesn't matter if you're stumbling over your words, it doesn't matter if you're yelling and throwing things, but just make sure in a calm fashion you put the concern on the record. You don't have to be dramatic about it. And I can definitely understand why younger lawyers wouldn't be comfortable doing that. But you can just say calmly on the record that, that Mr. Whatever has been waiting for 4 or 5 days. This is a serious charter concern. I know it's not the fault of anybody in this room, but I just want to put my concern on the record. That's all you have to do.
Yeah, that's good advice. And I would also encourage everyone not to give you more work. I know you're very busy, but do reach out to Alison because
Oh yeah.
she will definitely fire you up for that bail that you have, and she is really someone who fights a lot and aggressively. But I also wanted to ask you here about one point. I don't want to take too much of your time, Alison, but is more jails and new detention centers, is that an option? What do you think about that? I see.
Oh,
Because that seems to
yeah.
be an option that's being contemplated. So is that a good solution?
Absolutely not. I mean, maybe down the line, fine. If it helps the conditions for our clients, have at it. However, the problem is the reason the conditions are so bad right now is because there is nobody to staff the jails.
Mhm.
So if you don't have enough staff already for the jails that you've got, how on earth do you think that building more jails is going to solve that problem? It's going to make it worse. So lovely idea in theory. Everybody can have their own cell. It'll be kumbaya. It'll be wonderful. Practically speaking, the problem is we don't have staff for our jails.
Mhm.
So, properly staff the jails we've got, properly pay and treat correctional officers as they should be. I mean, I know I lose my mind on them all the time, but it is a tough job. And you can understand why the stress builds up
Yeah.
when they're so short staffed and, you have to deal with all these angry people. So properly staff your jails that you've got now, and then we can talk maybe about building more.
Yeah.
But for the last decade, the staffing has been a disaster. So I'm not quite sure why building jails is going to solve that.
I agree. And it won't necessarily encourage better treatment of the ones who are already in the other detention centers. So,
Almost every problem that we're seeing at all of the jails now can be traced back to the lack of staffing. Almost everything. If the jails were properly staffed, almost all of the problems that we see in there, I think, would disappear.
and but on that staffing issue, though, is it a pay problem or is it just because it is a tough job and there aren't too many people who are willing to continue doing it?
Don't know. But I think a, a lot of people would happily do the job, I think, if the conditions they were working under were better. So I don't think, I don't know about the pay issue, but I think the reason it is difficult to retain people in that job is because the conditions are so horrendous. They are so short-staffed, they are stretched thin. Um, and it's sort of like again a snowball effect because the short staffing and all of the terrible conditions that result from it make the inmates understandably angry and act up and take it out on the guards, which you can see how that snowballs and it blows
Yeah,
up into a disaster of epic proportions. So uh, I don't think it would be hard to properly staff the jails if you put the necessary resources into doing so. It just doesn't seem to have been a priority. But I bet you could hire lots of people if you properly staffed and
yeah,
gave them the right conditions to work under.
yeah. Well, I hope that we will see some changes. And if you are working now, from what you said, that you're starting to bring these stay applications, one thing definitely that I would like to follow up with you then is what is happening with these applications. And hopefully that will lead to something. I mean, that's a way for us to put pressure
Yeah,
on the system so that we can see a reduction of these unnecessary detentions
exactly.
in the jails. I
Nothing
want
else has worked. So
yeah, yeah.
we'll
Well, I
try.
mean, this is something that that's worth the try.
Exactly.
I want to thank you so much, Alison. It's always nice to chat with you, and it's very nice to hear your thoughts about this subject as opposed to just reading a tweet. Because, like, I know you always have a lot to say about this, and it was very nice to hear directly from you. And this is a conversation that I would definitely want to continue with you because we'll have to see how things are evolving in your work.
Absolutely. Happy to be back.
Thank you so much.
No problem.